Hi everyone, welcome back to another session of Azure DevOps training. In this one, we are going to discuss about Azure Boards. All right. So if you're watching this video, I'm assuming that you have already created a free Azure DevOps account and you have already created an organization, you have created a project, and under that project, you have created a team and you have also added few members into that team. All right. So let's just go ahead to the Azure DevOps account directly and see how do we actually see the Azure board and how you can actually go ahead and create an epic or an issue or a task in the Azure board. All right. So I will go to my Azure DevOps account. So here, if you see here, I have already created a couple of organizations over here. So this is the organization that I'm going to be working on. And these are two projects that I have created under this organization. So if I click on this project, I can also show you that what is the team that is available under this project. So if I go to teams, this is the team that I have. And under this team, there are two users that I have. All right. So now let's say that you are into this project. And once you are actually in some project, you will be assigned with some kind of requirement, right, to work on. It could be a user story, it could be a defect or anything, right? Any kind of requirement that you have been assigned to, you have to work on those requirement, right? Now let's just imagine that if there is a team leader and he is handling a team of 10 or 15 people, he is not going to ask each and every one of you every time that, like, okay, this was the task which was assigned to you. How much have you completed? Have you started working on it or not? Is it completed or not, right? So those kind of tracking, correct? Those kind of tracking can be done with the help of board. So that's point number one. Point number two is that with the help of board, you can also see that what requirement is assigned to who, right? So you can basically see each and every detail of a particular requirement, that what is the requirement, what is the description of the requirement, who has been assigned to that requirement, if that person has started working on the requirement or not, if that requirement development is already completed or not. Okay. So such kind of details you can get from the board. Okay. So once you are in your project, from the left panel, you can click on boards. Once you click on boards, you will see a couple of other options available here. You can see, like, we have work items, we have boards, backlogs, sprints, queries, and delivery plans. Okay. So for now, we are only going to discuss about boards. Okay. So I will be clicking on the boards. So once you click on the board, this particular layout that you're seeing, right, you can see that this is divided into three sections: to do, doing, and done. Okay. So anything that is listed as a requirement will be under this particular section. Okay. To do. And once somebody has started working on that requirement, okay, on that task, or, like, it could be any kind of work item, when once somebody has started working on that, that particular item will be moved under this particular section of doing. Okay. And once that particular task or epic or anything is completed, that will be moved under this layout. Now let's just go ahead and understand that how all these things happen and what are the options that we have available under to-do list. Okay. So here, if you see, we have a button called new item, and on the right side, you can see there's a drop down which has two options: epics and issues. Okay. So here, if let's say if I click on epics. Okay. So first of all, you need to understand that what is the meaning of an epic, what is the meaning of an issue, and what is the meaning of task. Okay. So we have three things: epic, issues, and task. Okay. Let me just show you quickly. Okay. So we have epic, issues, and task. Okay. So let's say if there is a requirement, but that requirement is pretty big. Okay. And one single developer cannot actually work on that particular requirement individually, or even if he can work, he's going to take a lot of time, right? So if there is a bigger chunk of requirement, you will basically, what will you do? You will split that requirement among different developers so that everybody can work on that requirement together and they can complete that particular requirement, right? So that bigger chunk of requirement will be called an epic. For example, let's say if you are working on a website and you have to create a login page. Okay. So in creating the login page, let's say, like, you can, now the epic will be login functionality. Okay, but now in that login functionality there will be multiple tasks, right, involved in that login functionality. For example, building the login page, right, building that application form, and then in the backend somebody will also be like, creating a database, so that if a user registers using that particular like, sign in or sign up page, you need to also basically register that information in your database, right? You need to insert the user record in the database, right? And there might be a lot of other functionalities involving a login information. For example, if somebody has forgotten their password, I mean, there are a lot of aspects that actually comes under login functionality. So it's not that you are just creating two buttons and then you're creating a login button, right? Like two text box and login button, username, password, and then login. No, there are a lot of other things that are actually involved. And also, let's say, like, if somebody is clicking on login, and let's say if there's a third party application who is doing some kind of authentication for you, then you might have built an API, or like, you might have to work on the integration. So those kind of aspects will be actually involved in your functionality, right? But then in Epic, all you're going to write is the login functionality. Okay, although you know that particular login functionality is going to be broken down into other smaller chunks of requirements. Now those smaller chunks of requirements are going to be called as issues. Okay, so let's say somebody is working on the database creation, okay, or database table creation, okay, and then under or let's say somebody is working on the backend coding, or somebody is working on the UI page. So those kind of categorization you will find under issues. Now let's say somebody, you have already created the issues, and even in that issues you can still divide that particular requirement into more granular level. Okay, let's say, like, okay, I have created this particular UI, and but the button click, like, for the button click functionality, you need to you are assigning that particular task to someone else, right? So the whole idea is that even though, like, your bigger requirement chunk is broken down into smaller pieces of requirement, there will be still, you like, there will be still possibilities of breaking that down into smaller tasks. Okay, so this is the normal general structure of, like, breaking down the requirements. So Epic is going to be on the top, because it will be basically the highlight, or you can say the only outline of the functionality. Issues will be broken down into a little smaller chunks. So just by seeing the issues, you will be able to understand, okay, these are the these issues will be in more detailed format. Okay, so that you will, just by seeing the issues, you will exactly understand, okay, so this is what we have to do. Okay, and then by seeing the task, you will exactly understand that, like, how that requirement is broken down into smaller tasks and who is going to work on that task. Okay, so let's just go back to the Azure DevOps, and I'll show you how to create an epic. So here from there are two options. So I have switched to epics, and I'm not under issues, because I want to create an epic first. Okay, so let's say if I click on new item here, I can uh, type something as sign up functionality. Okay, so let's say I'm creating an application for a university, right? And in order for anybody to actually log into that university portal and see each and every information available, right? Admission, syllabus, or anything that information is available, I want that particular student to first create an account on the university portal and then only log in, right? So let's just imagine that that is your project. So this is one of the functionalities that you will be working on. So I am just creating an epic, calling it as sign up functionality. Okay. Okay, so I just created an epic, and you can see there's an icon, crown icon. That is how you can understand that if whatever task you have under to do, if that is an epic or not. Okay, because an epic, an issue, and a task is going to have different icons. Okay, so now you can see that I have created an epic, calling it as sign up functionality. And here, if I click on to do, here you can see that there is a box called unassigned. That means this particular epic is not assigned to anybody. If you want to assign, so that you will know that who is tracking on this particular epic, or who is working on this particular epic, right? So you can basically choose any user. So this is the user that I have available. I have added one more user. So even if you search that particular user here, okay, you will be able to see the email ID here. If I click on search, All right, maybe I have typed something else, but you can see that I'm already getting one user over here. Okay, so you can basically from here you can assign a user to a particular epic or an issue or a task, whatever you have created, so that by seeing this anybody will understand that who is working on this particular piece. Okay, and then also there's something called state. Okay, and here if you see we have another option called add issue and add test, and also there should be something called add task, but the task option will come once you create the issue, because I showed you the hierarchy, right? Once you create the epic you will get an option to create issue, and once you create the issue you will get an option to create a task. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do that. So here if I click on add issue, okay, so let me just write that UI page. I'm just breaking it down into smaller pieces. That is what I explained in issue, right? So UI page, and then there will be something called database setup, or we can say table creation, user table or student table creation. Okay, so student, but somebody who is actually logging into the university portal could be a staff also, right? So let's just say that database setup. Okay, database setup. All right. And then let's just say integration, if there is any kind of integration that is involved here. Okay, so now these are the issues that I have created. So these issues are now part of this particular epic. Okay, sign up functionality, and this I have broken down into three parts, which I'm calling it as issues. Now let's say that in UI page, okay, I am going to create different task. Okay, so I am not getting an option to create a task. Maybe let me switch to issues. All right, so this is the UI page, and here I'm getting it. Okay, so under epic you will not get that option, so you need to switch to issues. Once you are on issues, for each and every issue you can add a task. Okay, so for example, let's say for UI page I want to add a task, so I will add a task and I will add it here, sign in page. Okay, and then sign up page, and then forgot password. Okay, and that's it. Let's just only keep three. Okay, so similarly I can add different tasks to this particular issue and even to this particular issue. Okay, now let's just go back to epics and you will be able to see all the tasks. Okay, so if I expand it, all right, here. Okay, and UI page, all okay. So here, if I open any of these issues, okay, let me just cross it out and show you again. So if you want to see any further details under all of these options that are available, if you even here, right, if you click here, because the title only says sign up functionality, right? But let's say, of course, you would be needing more information, right? That what and all features are supposed to be included in the sign up functionality. Let's say, the client has a different different set of requirements. They don't want a very traditional login page. Maybe they want something else, right? Something additional or something less. So that is why you would need to add description over here, that what is the description of the whole functionality that is expected from this particular epic. And here you can see something as state. So it is here there are three states by default: to do, doing, and done. Although we can add extra states, but that I will show you how to do it in upcoming sessions. But by default you are going to get these three states. So to do, that means this particular epic is still under the to-do list. Okay, nobody has actually started working on it. Okay, let's say if the work has already started on this particular epic, then it can be moved to doing state. Okay, and once it is completed it can be moved to done state. All right, and similarly, do not worry about all these things. I can still explain you. For example, okay, this is the area. This is it is just showing you the the project that which part, which project's part this epic is, right? And iteration will basically show you that. So again, if you already have an idea about a project, about sprints, about iterations, then you will understand this. But if not, just keep in mind that in any project, like, if you're working in agile methodology project, then they basically divide everything into sprints, right? So there will be one sprint, maybe like, they will decide that sprint timing to be like, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then there will be second sprint, then there will be third sprint. So for each and every sprint, they will decide a set of requirements. Let's say for sprint 1, they want to achieve 2 modules. They want to complete the development of 2 modules. Okay, so for those 2 modules, they will be creating different work items, right? They will be creating epics, they will be creating issues, they will be creating tasks, right? But everything is going to be tagged to sprint 1, whatever is decided to be completed in sprint 1, right? And then similarly, once sprint 2 starts, let's say sprint 1 development is complete, and like, everything has been deployed to another org and testing team is testing that. Now sprint 2 development has started. Okay, but then again in sprint 2, there will be another set of requirements which will be targeted to be completed in sprint 2, right? So those requirements are going to be tagged to sprint 2. So here, if you have multiple sprints, of course you will have multiple sprints. For now, just by default, there is one sprint. If I want extra sprints, I can actually go to like, project settings and add extra sprints. Okay, so here, the number of sprints that you have created, all the sprints are going to be available into this drop down. And when you're creating an epic or a task or an issue, you can search for that sprint and tag that particular task, issue, or epic to that sprint, so that anybody who opens up the like, respective work item, they will understand that as part of which sprint this particular requirement is supposed to be completed. All right, so these are some like, basic information about a work item. So don't worry, I will be creating another video specifically for the work items, but still, like, just to give you a highlight of these things will is like, basically showing you the basic details of the work item, the state, and the like, reason that it is like, because it is added to the backlog, the area, like, for which project this particular epic belongs to, and the iteration. And also, like, here, like, if you assign this to someone, then it will also show that who is assigned to this particular epic, right? And then here you can mention all the details regarding this functionality, because this is a simple text box. Maybe I think you cannot add more than 255 characters here, but this is a rich text box, and you can like, add as many details as you want. All right, and then here, if you see, you can also set the priority, that like, let's say if there is something, some task or issue or epic which is on high priority, then you can actually select it as 1. And if it is on the lowest priority, it is not as important as other epics, task, or issues, then you can like, set the lowest priority. And if the priority is intermediate, then you can select 2 or 3. Okay, depending on your condition. Okay, and then also, let's say if you have already created an epic, or you have already created an issue. Okay, if I go on the issue, if you have already created an issue, but it doesn't mean that you have already working. So here there are few columns which are missing. I can also add start date and target date, which I have not added yet. So that's okay. I can, let me just show you from let me show you from task. Okay, so here I think I would have to add those fields, but again, I'll be creating a separate video for that. So now let's just understand those fields from Epic itself, because it was coming up for Epic. Okay, so here, let's say one Epic is created, but that doesn't mean that if something is created, someone has started working on it, right? You might have created a lot of requirements, but that doesn't mean that development team has already started working on that, right? So you can fill this date, you can populate a value in this date the day you actually start working on it, right? So this basically will give anybody a highlight of that, okay, this epic was like, people started working on this particular date. And there will be always like, there will be a target date, there will be a deadline, that like, by which date this particular functionality is supposed to get completed. Let's say if the start date is today. Okay, if I keep it as today, then I am also like, I have to, because developer or anybody like, anybody from the development team, when they start working on it, they should know that what is the deadline. Okay, so let's say if I'm giving a week. Okay, so just by looking at this particular piece of requirement, they will understand that, okay, you know what, this is the target date by which it has to be completed. Okay, so these are few fields which will actually help anybody to like, open up a requirement and basically understand that what is the basic details of any like, epic issue or task. Okay, what is the priority, what is the start date, what is the target date, and what is the detailed description, and who it has been assigned to, what is the state, whether it has been completed. or it is still in progress, right? Those kind of details will be available on this particular work item detail page. All right. And then also in discussion, like, if you want to, let's say, like, chatter someone or drop a note to somebody that, like, you know what, I have a doubt because this particular requirement or, like, piece of epic, somebody else, like, someone from the functional team or, like, business analyst, somebody from a different team would be writing it for you, right? But if you are in the development team, there might be something which is mentioned in the description that you might not understand exactly, right? So you can here just put at the rate, and you can tag that person, right? Whoever has written this story, tag that person, and you can just say that I have a query or something like that. You can just drop a note and click on save. Okay, so the moment you do that, that particular person will get a email notification, and then he will understand that, okay, you know what, you have a question on this particular user story. They can come back to Azure DevOps, open this particular epic, and then they can reply to your comment under the same discussion panel. Okay, so that is what discussion is used for. And okay, so there are other three options that are available here. So if you want to see the history of this particular epic, you can see the history from this particular clock icon. Okay, so if I click here, I can see the history. So you can see that I added this particular epic to the backlog, right? And it is still in to-do list. So here, if you see, then it is showing me that, like, I created the epic, right, at 10:35. And then I have added a child link. I think this is showing me because of the, like, issues that I created. Okay, now let's say if I change the status of this epic. Okay, so let me go to okay, let me just be here, and if I move it to doing. Okay, and now if I open this, then this should show me, like, what was. So now you can see that it is showing the all the, like, history tracks, that when it was created, by whom it was created, and what was the status, like, when it was created. Then I started working on it because I changed the status, right, from to do to doing. Okay, and similarly, if I move it from doing to done, then also if I open this, I will be able to track it from here, that on what date it was actually marked as completed. Okay, so now you would have seen that how I'm, like, dragging and dropping. So see, this is very easy right here. And also you can do the same thing from here as well. So you don't have to, like, if you're already on the detail page, you can just change the status from here rather than dragging and dropping it off, like, from the, this is your Kanban board. Okay, so if you don't want to do that, and if you're on the detail page, you can change the status from here as well. Okay, so that was the about the second tab. Okay, now the third tab is link. Let's say if there is something in that detail and you want to tell the user that, you know what, for more details, or, like, for a detailed description, go to a link which I have given in the link section. Okay, so this is the link section. Here you can, like, actually add extra link, and or, like, you can create any other item, or let's say even if you have a related epic, right? Let's say this particular epic is also interconnected with some other epic, right? Then you can also attach that particular item from here, so that the user will understand that, you know what, if I'm building this, then I should probably go to that item as well and check out that what they have built as per that item. Okay, so those kind of information will be available under links. And if you want to provide some kind of attachment, any kind of file, or let's say Excel sheet. Okay, so that you can do using the add attachment section. So if you click on this, you will be able to basically upload a file here. Okay, so these are the smaller tabs. If you already know about it, it becomes really easy for you, rather than, like, actually searching that, like, how to actually navigate and how to check that who is doing what, all these things, right? All right, so I think this was all about this work item. So in board, you would have understood that how to create an epic. Okay, you just need to click on the new item. Once you have created an epic, in your epic, you can create, like, you can create issues. And once you have created issues in, like, you can create task. Okay, so again, going from the epic again, once you click an epic. Okay, once you click an epic, and then you would be creating an issue, right? So from here, you can add an issue. Okay, and then you can add a task, but here we are not getting that option, so we will switch to issues, and then we will go to this particular issue, and here we will get the option to add task. Okay, so this is the basic knowledge on Azure boards. All right. And going forward, we will also understand that what are the basic, more features, or we will understand a work item better, that what are the work items that we can, additional work items we can add, and what are the details that are available under additional items, and how we can add extra fields, right? For example, here now on the issue, you're seeing priority and effort. Effort is something that basically tells you that how much time this particular issue is going to take to get completed, right? So because for every requirement, every kind of task that our developer will be working on, there will be an estimated time, right? So that estimated time, that effort is logged here. Okay. So let's say you have something, some extra details to log to a particular issue, right? So in order to log those details, you might be needing extra fields here, right? So in the upcoming sessions, we'll see how a work item completely works, how we can add extra fields, how we can basically customize this page as per our requirement. All right. And one more thing is that, let's say if you want to know that, because maybe on one particular issue, development team is working, and simultaneously, let's say functional team is also making some comments in the discussion box. If there are multiple people discussing something on this, and let's say somebody is going and changing the status, and anything, that any change that you want to be notified about this particular issue, right, then you can just click on follow button. Okay. So once you follow a user story, sorry, an issue or an epic or a task, so if there is any change that happens on that particular piece, you will get an email notification. All right. So that is the funda of follow button over here. So this was all about boards, and I will, in the next video, I'm going to discuss about work items. So for now, that's all. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you